Hey, nice to have you back, Johnny, after your little blip. We're happy to see you looking healthy. I want to dedicate the shiur today to two very special ladies, to the memory of two special ladies. Avril's mother-in-law, Chava Bat Nachman, whose yortzeit is tomorrow, and my mother, Simcha Bat Tzvi Hirsch, whose yortzeit is next Tuesday. So that's before the next Gemarah shiur. So we'll dedicate that to her. I don't know about Chava Bat Nachman, but my mum, I think, would be very tickled to think that there was a Gemarah shiur being dedicated in her memory. But there you go. She would have said, "Not bad for a girl from Shrewsbury," which was one of her most loved sayings. Anyway, we miss her, and I'm sure that Neville's mum is missed as well. Right. So, where were we up to? Who can tell me?
Who else can sit on the Sanhedrin? And you asked us not to read ahead so that we wouldn't know and we would all voice an opinion.
Right. Okay. So where we were up to was we were discussing how many people are required for a place to be called a city and to require a Sanhedrin of 23 people, because every city has to have a Sanhedrin of 23 people. But what is a city? That's what we were discussing. And the first opinion in the Mishnah was that we needed 120 people to make a city. And we were working our way through that. And we had got as far as, who can remember how far we'd got?
114, I think we were up to.
We were up to 114. We were 6 short. Right, Johnny, since you remembered 114, without looking, tell me how that 114, how have we arrived at the 114? Well, let's start. We need 23 for the Sanhedrin, right? Then what? What else do you remember?
Another 23 and another 23.
Yes, and another 23. We had 3 rows of 3 rows of reserves. Yeah, substitutes bench, I think we called it. Right, so that was takes us to 92.
Then we had 10 people who stayed behind in shul to look after the shul.
Very good. The 10 batlanim, the 10 people who were not gainfully employed, who were the minion men. That takes us to 102. All right. Go on. Anyone remember any of the others? We've got another 12 we've got to get to.
2 scribes, 2 bailiffs.
Okay. Michael says 2 scribes. That's 104. 2 bailiffs. That's 106. Yeah.
2 agents somewhere.
Yeah, 2 litigants first. We have to have yeah. So that's 108. 2 witnesses. That's 110.
And 2 that can refute the witnesses.
2 that can refute the witnesses. That's 112. And the final 2?
2 that can refute the refuters.
2 that can refute the refuters. Excellent. So we've got to 114, and that is where we got to at the end of last week. So we need another 6. Okay. Now, without looking in, anybody that's looked in is not allowed to answer this question. If you haven't looked on, I want your guesswork as to what these other 6 might consist of. Anyone not looked in, not looked on? Right, Hannah. Hannah and Johnny have not looked on. Michael's.
I'd say the rabbi of the congregation, maybe.
Okay, Johnny says a rabbi. Hannah.
And the chazan.
I don't have a
By
clue.
chazan, you mean a Baal Tefillah?
Al-Tefillah, yes.
As opposed to a chazan, which we said last week. Okay. All right. Johnny wants a rabbi and a chazan. Hannah, what do you want?
I haven't got a clue.
No clue. Okay. All right. Well, let's see.
The gabbai of the shul.
Ah, now you're talking.
Seriously, yeah.
Now you're talking. Right. Let's have a look. I'll put the Gemara on the screen for you, and we'll have a look. There you go. Right, we're over here. We're on page 94 if you've got a Steinsaltz Gemara. Yeah. And we're at the bottom, towards the bottom of the page, over here where it says Vatanya. So we've got 114, and our Mishnah told us we need 120. So we've got to find 6. Now, the Breita comes along, another Breita comes along, and puts a bit of a spanner in the works, because it goes like this. Vatanya, and we learn in a Breita, Kol ir she'ein ba asarad varim halalu, any city that does not have the following 10 things, ein talmid chacham rashai lador betocha. A talmid chacham does not have rashai. What's rashai?
Permission.
Permission. Ladur.
To live.
To live. What word do you see from there? Ladur.
Dira.
Oh, generation.
Yes, you're right. Dor is a generation, but Hannah is said the one I was thinking of, which is dira. You all live in a dira, do you not? Okay, a dira means a place where you live. Ladur means to live. Why does ladur mean to live? What is the Hebrew word for to live?
Lichiot.
Lichiot is to live from the word chaim, yes. What if I say to you, what is the Hebrew word for to dwell?
Ladur.
Again, Hannah, please.
Ladur.
No, I don't think that is the Hebrew word.
Yoshev, is it Yoshev, I think? Okay,
Lashevet is to dwell, yes, Vayeshev Yaakov.
Yeah.
What if I said to you, what is the Hebrew word for to sojourn? That word that we all use in everyday language. What is the Hebrew word for to sojourn?
It's also Vayeshev, I think.
David, help me out here.
Just get one of Rebbe Balkan's Torah sheets.
Lagur. Lagur.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Which is why a stranger is called a ger, because he is a ger hagar betocham. The stranger who sojourns, a sojourner, is somebody who lives somewhere, but he's not vayeshev. Vayeshev means to settle. Okay. Vayeshev Yaakov means Yaakov settled. Lashevet, to sit, to settle. Lagur means to be, biblical Hebrew anyway, means to sojourn, means to be there on a temporary basis, which is why we call a stranger a ger. Okay, now, so Gimel and the Daled are one of those funny things in Hebrew which can be interchangeable. So instead of lagur, it becomes ladur. Okay, but the original biblical word for living in a place is lagur. So it's just a bit of semantics here, a little bit of etymology. Ladur comes from the biblical word of lagur with a switch around of the gimel for the daled. We often see that in words where letters are interchangeable. So
could there also be, Johnny, could there also be an association with the first two letters, Lamed Daled, Leida?
I don't think so, David, because the Lamed here is 2. It's he hasn't got permission to door there.
Yeah.
So
Johnny, has it got anything to do with generations?
I guess probably. I don't think so, Avril, because it's not originally Ladur, it's originally Lagur. Okay, But if you want to make an association, you can make one by saying that when you live in a place, the next generation will be born there. It's a bit of a schlep, but it's a bit of a dray, but there you go. So what's this talking about? A Talmid Chacham Rashai Ladur Batucha. A Talmid Chacham does not have permission, means he shouldn't. He should not live in a place that does not have these 10 things. Let's have a look what a place has to have before a Talmid Chacham should consider it a place to live. First one, a bet din makin v'onshin, a court which makin, we had that word last week. I asked you what was the word for lashes, and makot, yes. So makin is a bet din that gives out lashes. V'onshin, what does that mean? Onshin. What's an onesh?
Punishment.
Punishment, correct. So what other punishment might a bet din be giving out other than makot, other than lashes?
To make somebody a slave?
Does a beit din have the authority to make somebody a slave? Possibly does, because if he can't pay his debts, then he may well have to sell himself as a slave in order to pay his debts. So it's possible, that's a possibility. I'm not sure that that is considered a punishment. That is considered a consequence of being unable to pay a fine or to repay something you've stolen. So you're right that a bet din can do that. I don't think that's what it means by onshin, by punishment here.
But monetary fines, as you said. Fines.
Monetary fines, yes, that could be considered as a punishment. So give me an example of a monetary fine that a bet din might give out.
You kill a cow, they want extra cows, or the equivalent of extra cows.
Yes. Yes, if you steal a sheep or a cow and slaughter it, you have to pay what?
Extra.
Good.
Extra. I can't remember exactly how many, 2 or 3 extra.
2 or 3 extra. Any advance on 2 or 3?
And don't you have to pay a fifth more than what you stole?
Yeah, that's a different type of fine. That's not for the sheep or the cow which has been stolen and slaughtered. Try a bit more, Michael. Try 4 or 5.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll try 5 then.
Okay, well it's 4 and 5. 4 for a sheep, 5 for a cow. So you're right. That's a fine. Hannah's also right. You have to pay chomesh. You have to pay a fifth extra if you steal something. Sometimes you have to pay kefel. You have to pay double. So there are all these fines. Those are the punishments. Anything else that a bet din might punish you with?
4 types of death? Or is that only...
Well, I suppose yes, but that's not this bet din. That would not be the bet din of a city.
Okay.
Because that would get appealed up to the Sanhedrin. Okay, what about imprisonment? Is imprisonment a halachic concept from the Torah?
No,
it's not.
No.
But a bet din did have the authority to imprison somebody in a very specific circumstance. Does anybody know what the specific circumstance is that a bet din can imprison somebody?
A man won't give his wife a get?
No, you can go and beat the living daylights out of him if that in that situation, which would be a good idea. The situation that a person, David, do you know?
No.
Okay, it's really fascinating. A person attacks another person. chas v'sholom, and injures them, what's the halacha?
They're going to make restitution.
They have to make restitution, and there are 5 different types of restitution he has to make. Medical charges, medical fees, he has to pay for loss of earnings, he has to pay for pain and suffering, he has to pay for embarrassment. There's one I'm missing, I can't just think of it right now, but there are 5 anyway. What happens if he kills?
Loss of income.
What again, David? Which one am I missing?
Loss of income.
Did I not say loss of income? Okay, so let's see if we can get the 5. Loss of income, medical fees, embarrassment.
You said loss of earnings before, that's right.
Did I? Okay, loss of earnings, medical fees, embarrassment.
Injury.
Oh yeah, damages for pain and suffering. And I'm missing one. I can't think of it off the top of my head. It'll come to me as we go along. Anyway, what happens if the person that you attacked dies? Then what happens? What's your punishment?
The person that inherits makes the restitution.
Well, the halacha is that if you kill somebody, what's your punishment?
I have Misa.
Yeah, you have the death penalty. Now, if you are high of the death penalty, do you pay the 5 heads of damages that we've mentioned?
No.
Why not, David?
Because the death penalty it trumps the 5 penalties.
Yes, that's right. That's a good expression.
You can't pay damages and be put to death.
Yeah, I was going to say it overrides it, but trumps it is a good expression. So
I prefer overrides. Yeah.
So what the halacha is that if something involves 2 punishments, you do 1 act, you cannot receive 2 punishments in halacha for 1 act, and the more severe punishment overrides the lesser punishment. So if a person dies from an attack, then you are exempt. You get your death penalty, but you don't pay the 5 heads of restitution. Now, what happens if you attack somebody and they are badly injured, and it looks like they might not make it? What happens then? Well, I've given you a clue, haven't I? What happens is that the Beis Din puts you in prison until we see what's going to happen. And that is where the Beis Din has an authority to imprison somebody, to wait it out to see the outcome of the injuries sustained by the victim. So if a person injures somebody so severely that it looks like he might not survive, if it's obvious he's going to survive, then there's no such thing. And if he dies in the attack, well, that's done. But what if we're not sure? He has a head injury and he's unconscious and we don't know whether he's going to make it. It's a bad situation. So the Beit Din can imprison the perpetrator while we wait it out to see what happens. And according to, let's see who it is that says that. According to Rashi, Rashi has a slightly different version of our Gemarah. Our Gemarah says Bet Din Makin V'Onshin, a Beit Din that gives out lashes and punishes. Rashi's version of the Gemarah says Makin V'Chovshin, which actually means to imprison. So it's Rashi that says that it's imprisonment, and the Yad Ramah explains that the attacker is imprisoned until the fate of the victim becomes clear. Okay, so that's the first of the 10 things that you have to have in a city before a Talmid Chacham is allowed to live there. What's number 2? Number 2 are up back in the Gemarah. Kupa shel tzedakah. Nigbet bishnayim. A charity fund which is nigbet bishnayim. What word, Johnny Halpern, do you see in that word nigbet? You're muted.
Geneva.
Well, you do if you turn the letters around.
Yeah.
But what if you don't turn the letters around? What word can you see in the middle? In the middle of that word?
Yeah, Gabai.
Gabai.
Yeah.
Gabai.
Yeah.
This is the verb of the word gabai. Gabai is somebody who administers the fund. The gabai of the tzedakah fund is the person who administers the fund. That's a noun. A gabai is a noun. A person is a gabai. Okay. The verb for this in the passive form is nigbet. So there is a word gabai, and that's why I said, you're getting somewhere when you said gabai. So in order for a Talmid Chacham to be allowed to live in a city, there has to be a charity fund which is nigbet bishnayim. It is collected or administered by two people. Okay, two people have to collect the money. Umit chaleket. What word can you see in the middle of that?
Chalek is a portion.
And to apportion, yeah, and to divide it out and to give it out. Bishlosha. We need three people to give it out. Two to collect it, and three to administer the fund and to give it out. So the first question: why do we need two people to be the gabai? Why do we have?
That's why I said. I'm sorry. That's why I said Geneva, Johnny. Two, in case if there's one, they could pinch the money. Okay, so that's a good reason why you need two, because you've also got to have a balance and a check. But that's true. But there's another Gemarah that tells us in Bava Basra that two people are required in order to collect fines, for the reason that we said earlier on last week. Remember, we had the chazanim, who were the court officers, the bailiffs. You need two of them because you have to have the authority of two, because you need two witnesses. Okay, so it's not just the balance and the check that somebody won't nick it. It's you actually halachically need two witnesses to do something official. So when you're collecting charity, that's not official. But here you do need it too, because if somebody pledges charity, okay, I pledge to give a certain amount of money and I don't give it, what happens then? You need to have court officers, you need to have charity collectors who will go and say, "Oi, mister, you pledged a certain amount of money, you haven't given it. Give me your television or your car or whatever it is in lieu of what you owe." So that's an official task, and you need two people to do it. That's clearly understood. But what about giving it out? Why do we need three people to give out the tzedakah? Why can't just two people give out the tzedakah?
One gives and two are witnesses?
One gives and two witnesses. All right, that would work. It's not the reason the Gemarah gives, but yeah, it would work.
Steinsal said it's because it's so important to know who to give the money to that you need three instead of two.
Okay.
In the column on the left.
We're on the right lines here, but there's something a bit more substantial than that on those lines, but a bit more substantial.
Does it have anything to do with Al Pi Shnaim or Shlosha Yakum Davar?
Okay, so Hannah's asking, is there anything to do with the fact that we need two or three witnesses for a matter to be established? Yes and no. What is basically, what a number of 3, what does that come to mind? If I say 3 people are needed for a
small court.
A court. The minimum court is 3 people. We do it for Hatarat Nadarim, don't we? We constitute a bet din of 3 people. So the reason we need 3 to give out the money is that when you are giving out money that belongs to the community, you are in effect making a judgment. You have 3, 5, 10 people coming to you and saying, I need tzedakah, I need money. You have to make a judgment call. This person's got 10 kids and no income. I need to give him a certain amount. This person lives on his own and he's got a wealthy trust fund in his name. I don't need to give him as much. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Judgments need to be made about how much you give of the city's money to each individual, right? That's clear, right? That happens, mimela, that happens automatically. Whenever somebody comes to your house and says to you, I'm collecting for X, Y, or Z, you're going to look at the merits of each case and decide how much you're going to give of your own money. Well, that's you. You can do what you like with your own money. But what you can't do what you like with is community money. So community money has to be administered in a way which is done by, in effect, a bet din. In effect, every decision that is made about community money being given to A, B, or C person is in effect a monetary decision made on behalf of the town. It's a shame Julia's not here, because I always ask her this question. What was the very first thing that we learned 4 years ago? The very first 3 words of the Gemarah that we're learning. In fact, this chapter is called that. Dinei Mamonot Bishlosha. You need 3 people to judge monetary matters. In effect, the person who is giving out the money is in effect acting as a beit din. So you need 3 people. Okay, so 2 people to collect it because of you need aidim, because you're actually taking money from somebody, but 3 to give it out because that 3 is a bet, is in effect a bet din of its own. Okay, so this Talmid Chacham can only live in this place if it has a bet din that's going to give out punishments, if it's got a tzedakah fund collected by 2 and given out by 3. What else does it need?
Just interesting, Johnny. Rav Steinshouse says the amount of money that each householder must give is determined by the leaders of the city, so that the collectors don't have to make an assessment when they're going round. That's interesting.
That's the collectors. But when you're handing it out...
Yes, I know it's the collectors, but I just thought it was an interesting point. That
the contrast, isn't it? Because otherwise you'd have to have 3 to collect it as well.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on. What else do we need? Bet Knesset. Okay, you can't live in a place that doesn't have a shul. Bet Merchatz. What's that? What word can you see in the middle of that?
Rachitza.
Yeah, what is rachitza?
Washing.
So what's a beit merchatz?
A washroom, a bathroom.
A bathhouse. A bathhouse. Nowadays we've all got our own bathrooms, but it's not so long ago that people went to the local bathhouse to have a bath, right? It's not that many hundred of years ago. How many hundreds of years ago did we not have baths in our own house? Less than 100 years ago, people still had a tin bath, didn't they? They put in front of the fire.
Yes.
I'm not old enough to remember that. I don't know about you, Johnny. Did you ever sit in a tin bath in front of the fire?
I think so.
There you go.
We had a bathroom as well, but I remember sitting in the winter down in front of the fire because we didn't have central heating.
So you sat in front of the fire in a tin bath. And right, so before we had tin baths, we had bathhouses. Okay. So you need to have a bathhouse. Okay. It's obvious why you need a shul. Why do you need a bathhouse? Why is a Talmid Chacham not allowed to say live in a place that doesn't have a bathhouse?
Is it a mikveh there?
He's got to be clean for Shabbos and Yom Tov, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Ubeit HaKisei, what's that?
It's a toilet.
A toilet. Okay. We would call it an outhouse back in the day. And again, it's not that long ago that we didn't have our own privies, right?
Yeah.
Did you have an outside privy, Johnny?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So Johnny had an outside privy. And before outside privies,
Not me, my parents.
you had communal privies. A Beit Kisei was a place where you went to do what you needed to do, and of course you need to have that because of cleanliness. So a Talmid Chacham cannot live in a place where there's no Beit Kisei. Okay, what else do you need? Rofeh. You need a doctor. Why do you need a doctor if you're a Talmid Chacham?
He's not a Talmid Chacham in medical matters.
All right, that's fair enough. Yes. But what would this doctor also do? Likely.
Pronounce death.
Well, that's true as well. Yes.
Deliver babies.
Do deliver babies. All right. And then what after he's delivered the babies, what would he do?
If it's a boy, the Brit.
Yes. 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 Have a look. If you look at this list, we haven't got to the end of the list yet. It doesn't include a moel. How can you live in a place where there isn't a moel? The answer is the rofeh, the doctor, is the moel. So this rofeh, you have to be in a place where there's a moel. Okay. Uman. What is an uman? We don't need these anymore. But back in the day, if you were a Talmid Chacham, you needed an uman. What does the word uman mean in modern Hebrew?
An artist.
Yes, an artist. An artist. Somebody who is, and what is an artist? Somebody who is skilled with their hands and they know what they're doing with it, etc. I'm trying to struggle to try and connect the modern Hebrew word uman with the translation here. And uman in the Gemarah is a bloodletter. Right? That was one of the cures that you went to for once a doctor had pronounced a certain treatment, you went to the bloodletter to have your blood let, and that is an uman. I suppose the equivalent here would be a physiotherapist. The doctor prescribes a certain treatment and the physio might carry it out. Anyway, that's an uman. Lavlar. This is a great word. Lavlar. What is a lavlar? Well, if you've got the screen on, you can see it's a scribe. It's a scribe. We don't call that Hebrew word a scribe. What's a word for a scribe in Hebrew?
A sofa.
A sofer. So why are we using this word lavlar? Have a look on the left-hand side of the page under the Rav Steinsaltz language. Lavlar, from the Latin librarius, meaning a writer, one whose job is to copy books and write documents. So there you are. There is a Gemarah reference to the word library. Okay, isn't that interesting?
Yes.
So the Gemarah says, lavlar, you need to have a librarian or a scribe, in fact. Next one you need to have, tabach. What is a modern Hebrew word, tabach? What does that mean?
It means a baker, but it's not. Here
No,
they're not using.
Doesn't mean a baker. Doesn't mean a baker.
A shochet.
Ofeh is a baker.
So shochet, but I don't know what connection is.
Tabach. Okay, where do you cook your meals, Johnny?
In the kitchen.
And what is the Hebrew word for kitchen?
Mitbach.
Mitbach, it's the same word. Okay, so a tabach is a cook.
Yeah.
Tabach is a cook. Okay, but here in the Gemarah it means a shoichet. It means a shoichet. The modern Hebrew word for
here they're using it from litboach, which is to slaughter.
Correct. We say it in Avinu Malkeinu. We said it this morning in shul. Who was in shul this morning? Michael, you heard it. You were right next to the rabbi when he said it. Avinu Malkeinu.
Different shul.
Oh, a different shul. Okay. I thought I didn't see you this morning. Avinu Malkeinu. Asay leman tivuchim beyichudecha. Act, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Avinu Malkeinu, act leman tivuchim al yichudecha. Those who were slaughtered for your oneness. In other words, those who were slaughtered for being Jews. Okay? Tevuchim means slaughter. So litbach means to slaughter. In modern Hebrew, a tabach is a cook or a chef.
A chef.
In biblical Hebrew, in Gemarah Hebrew, a tabach is a shoichet. Obviously, you need to live in a place where there's a shoichet. So that's in the list. And the final one, the final thing that you need is a melamed tinokot, a teacher of children. Obviously, you need to live in a place where there's a school, where there's a cheder. You can't send your children to a school where it doesn't have any Jewish teachers. So those are 10 things that the Brisa says a Talmid Chacham can't live in a place. How does that help us? We are trying to find another 6 people to make up our 120. We've got 114. We had that last week. We're trying to find 6. We've got 10 things here. How's that going to work? Well,
take out duplicates.
We can take out the Bet Knesset because that's not a person. We can take out the Bet Merchatz, that's not a person, and we can take out the Bet Kisei, that's not a person. So that leaves 7. Okay.
Can you make the 2 people who collect the money for the Magbid the same? 2 of them also give it out.
No, but you're on the right lines. So the 6 extras are like this: the 2 to collect tzedakah, the 3 to give it out, that's 5, and the 1 person. This is a very multi-talented guy, because the last one, number 120, is the doctor, the bloodletter, the scribe, the shoichet, and the teacher.
All the same person.
All the same person. All the same person. Okay, that's 1 person. Now, you might think that's not going to happen. Think about, we spoke about this in one of the shiurim, maybe it was a Gemarah share. Johnny, we spoke about Shimshon Olsberg, didn't we?
Yeah.
He was a moel, so that's 1.
Yeah, that's sweet.
He was a shoichet, that's 2. We spoke about laser potash as well, remember?
Yes.
He was a chazan, that's 3. He also taught in the cheder in shrubberies, that's 4, right? So it's not unusual that 1 person would do all those things. So that's how the Gemara comes to its 120 people. The 114 that we spoke about last week, the 2 to collect tzedakah, the 3 to give it out, and the 1 person to be the moel, bloodletter, sofer, shoichet, and teacher. Okay, there's your 120. Wonderful, we've got there. Okay, 120 people is needed for a city. That was in the Mishnah. Those who've got Gemara, turn back, please, to page 2b, to page 2b. Whoop, I've lost the Gemara now on the screen. Oh my, there we come in, right? It's coming back now. Hang on. The Gemara initially said,
how many men must be in the city for it to be eligible for a lesser Sanhedrin?
There we go. Right at the end of the Mishnah here. I've got it on the screen now for you. Immediately before the Gemara, right at the end of the first Mishnah, the Mishnah said, how many must be in the city for it to be eligible for a lesser Sanhedrin? That's what we've been talking about. Me'ah v'esrim, 120. Only problem is we've got another opinion. Rabbi Nehemiah Omer, Rabbi Nehemiah says, Matayim Ushloshim. It's 230. Oh my goodness. Have we got to start all over again? Oh, Michael Krauss doesn't fancy that at all. So let's go back to the Gemarah. Let's go back to the Gemarah. What does it say? What does our Gemarah say about Rabbi Nehemiah? We've just said that we need the 120, and we've spent ages getting up to 120. Now we have to get through to 230. How are we going to do that? Any suggestions? Any suggestions? If you haven't looked on and you haven't read what the Steinsaltz tells you and you get it, I'll be very, very impressed. So I'll tell you, okay? So let me take you, if I may, to this. This is Pat. Can you see that on the screen? Have you got the...
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I have taken you to Parshat Yitro. And what was Yitro's advice to Moshe?
To make courts of 10s, 50s. I've forgotten all the numbers, but they were courts going up in authority with greater numbers of people.
Yes, that's absolutely right, except he did it the other way around. He said start with the thousands and then hundreds and then 50s and then 10s. So absolutely right. Yitro told Moshe to make a court system because Moshe was busy doing all the court stuff himself. And so this was Yitro's advice. Yitro's advice was this on the screen. You shall choose out the entire nation, men of substance, God-fearers, men of truth, who hate monetary gain. You shall appoint over them leaders of thousands, leaders of hundreds, leaders of 50s, and leaders of 10s. So the minimum number for a leader is to be a leader of 10. How many people on the Sanhedrin that we're talking about?
23.
23, and each one of them must be a leader of
10. That's 230.
So how many people do we need in a city, according to Reb Nehemiah?
230.
230. And so it was a lot easier to get to the 230 than it was to the 120. Because according to Rebbe Nehemiah, never mind all that calculation that we have, we need a doctor and a this and a that and the other. All we need is 230 people, because you've got a Beis Din of 23 people, a Sanhedrin of 23 people. The minimum is that each one of them has to have 10 people that he is a leader of, according to the Torah. So the minimum, says Rabbi Nehemiah, is 230 people. Okay? Rabbi Nehemiah Omer v'chule. Okay? Rabbi Nehemiah says 230, and I've explained to you why we get to 230. But, says the Gemarah, and now we turn over the page, Tanya, I've got a problem, says the Gemarah. We've learnt in a Brisa, Rebbe Omer. Who's Rebbe?
Yehuda Nasi.
Rebbe Yehuda Nasi. He says, over the page, Matayim Shivim V'Shiva. It's 277. Oh my goodness. Now we've got to start all over again. We've got to find another 47 on top of Rabbi Nehemiah's 230. We understand that Tanakama's 120. We spent 2 weeks doing that. We understand Rabbi Nehemiah's 230. That's very straightforward. 10 for each of the Sanhedrin. What's 47? Where do we need another 47 from? Where do we need another 47 from? Okay. So the answer is given here by Rav Steinsaltz. We start with Rabbi Nehemiah's 230, and the extra 47 is a similar concept to the 3 rows of substitutes that we had in the original 120. In the Tanakama's view, we needed the 23 on the Beis Din, and then we needed those 3 rows of substitutes in case we needed to add in extra judges. The halacha is, and we learned this quite some time ago. If you have a beit din of 23 and you have 11 for, 11 against, and 1 abstention, what do? You add 2 judges. Remember, we learned it. You keep adding 2 until you get a majority. So what happens is you add in 2, and what if then 1 goes either side? So you've got 12 and 12 and 1 abstention. And what if you keep on adding and adding and adding, and every time you add 2 judges, 1 goes one way and 1 goes the other? You get to a point where you've gone up to 23, and you get up to then, if you add in 47, how many do you get to? You get to 70, yeah? 23 plus 47 is 70. Now, how many judges on the big Sanhedrin?
71.
According to who, Johnny? 71. Have a guess. Have a guess.
Rebbe?
According to the Chachamim.
Yeah.
According to the sages. Somebody was a dissenting figure. Rabbi Yehuda said how many? Not 71, but?
73.
No, 70, the other way.
70.
He
Okay.
said 70 because he said that Moshe was part of the Zakenim, part of the 70 elders. The Chachamim said no, he was apart from, not a part of, apart from. Okay, he was separate from the 70 and therefore 71. We paskin like the Chachamim, but according to Rabbi Yehuda, the big Sanhedrin is 70. The small Sanhedrin keeps adding these 2 people until either you get a situation where you've got a majority, or you get to 70. You get to because the small Sanhedrin cannot be bigger than the big Sanhedrin. So according to Rebbe, according to this opinion of Rebbe, who goes according to Rabbi Yehuda, you need another 47 people in the town because you might need them on the substitutes bench. Not the 3 rows of 23 that the Tanakama was talking about. He says, I've got 230 people in the town, but I need another 47 that I might need to call upon to add to the lesser Sanhedrin until it gets to a situation where I can't add any more because it can't be bigger than the big Sanhedrin. So there's your 277 according to Rebbe. Now, there is another opinion of what Rebbe said. According to this first brisa, Rebbe says that we need 277 for the reason I've just said. You're going to add in as a maximum of 47 people to make the 70. So this first opinion of Rebbe's view is Rebbe Yehuda's opinion of Rebbe's view, because Rebbe Yehuda is the one that says the big beis din is 70. Are you with me so far? The next one says, Vahatanya, hang on a minute. He says, I've got another brisa, says the Gemarah. Rebbe Omer, 278, not 277, but 278. Says the Gemarah, Lo kasha, that is not our difficulty. Ha Rabbi Yehuda, ha Rabbanan. The second one that says Rebbe says 278 believes, like the Chachamim, that the big Sanhedrin is 71. What's the difference between 23 and 71? 71 minus 23 is 48. 48 added to your 230 is 278. So now we have 4 opinions as to how many people are required in a city, okay, to call it a city. Number 1 opinion, 120 for all the things that we worked out in the last 2 weeks. Second opinion, Rabbi Nehemiah, who says 230, 10 for each of the members of the Sanhedrin. Third opinion, Rebbe, according to Rabbi Yehuda, 277, the 230 plus an additional 47 that might be required. Fourth opinion, Rebbe's opinion according to the Chachamim, 278, the 230 plus a potential 48. Okay, so now then, that is the end of that particular subject. we have now established the size of a city. We have 4 different opinions, but we now understand the 4 different opinions of how big a city is. However, we've not quite finished with this numbers game, because I'm going to ask you a question.
Do they all have to be residents in the town at one time?
They all have to be resident in the town at one time, yes. Yes.
Right.
Now then, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. According to Rabbi Nehemiah, who says 230, he says we need that number because each of the judges have to have at least 10 people under their charge, right? That was very straightforward. That was the easiest one of all 4 opinions to understand. So I'm going to ask you a question. How many judges were there in the whole of Israel? Let's go back to Parashat Shemot, to Parashat Yitro. As Hannah said, you've got judges of thousands, judges of hundreds, judges of 50s, and judges of 10s, right? That's the court system. Now, how many Jews were there in the desert?
60,000 males between the age of 20 and 65, I think.
Okay, well, you're almost right. 2 slight errors there. Anyone want to try and
630.
improve on Hannah's very good attempt?
630,000.
600,000.
600,000, not 60,000, yeah. And between the ages of 20 and
45?
60.
Oh,
60. Okay, how do we know that? Well, it's in Parashat Bo. There we go. The children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Sukkot, about 600,000 on foot, the men besides the young children. About 600,000. K shesh meot elef raglei hagvarim. Okay, there's another reference to the numbers also in Sefer Shemot. David, come on, where is it? Gives us a more accurate number.
The shekel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, sorry, David, where is it?
No, Michael's got it.
Oh, Michael.
The shekels. The counting of the shekel.
Yes, and where was that? Which parasha, David?
Kitisa.
Okay, well that's yeah, but that didn't help us.
Oh, the counting is in Pekudei.
Yes, thank you. There it is on the screen for you. 1 beka per head. What's a beka? What is a beka?
Half a shekel.
It is half a shekel. Why is it half a shekel? Why is a beka half a shekel? What is the Hebrew word that means, what is the translation of the Hebrew word beka? What is a beka in Hebrew?
It's a split, it's a rift.
A valley. A valley, a rift, yeah. A valley.
The beka between Jordan and Israel is
It's a valley. And what does a valley do? It splits something in half. That is why a beka is called, half a shekel is called a beka. So 1 beka for each head, and they counted it all in Pekudei, as David said, and 603,550 people. So we've got about 600,000. Let's go back to the Gemarah. The Gemarah says, how many judges were there in the desert? So the Gemarah works it out for us. We know from Yitro that there were judges of over thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. So works out how many judges of thousands were there? 600, because there were 600,000 people. 600 judges over thousands. Yeah, you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. How many ministers of hundreds were there? 6,000, because there were 6,000 hundreds. So who's keeping the score here? That's 6,600. What about ministers of 50s? How many 50s are there in 600,000? Well, I'll tell you, it's easy. 12,000, okay? So now we're up to 18,600. And what about tens? How many tens are there in 600,000?
60,000.
60,000. So how many judges were there in the Jewish people in the desert? 78,600, says the Gemarah. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that. The Gemarah tells us that 78,600 judges. Before we say that is that, I want to raise an objection. What objection do I want to raise? Who's the mathematician amongst us here?
Michael.
Michael, are you a mathematician?
Yeah, well, you're talking about 600,000 when it's more than 600,000.
Okay, granted. But we're going on that first one where it said 600,000. There's still a problem.
Some of the judges could be in two courts.
No, can't have that.
Were some judges judging the other judges?
Well, let's look at it like this.
Once you've got these 60,000, they're the top judges over all the people.
How about this? If we start with 600,000 and we've got 600 judges of thousands, and we take them out of the equation, we're left with 599,400. So there isn't 6,000 judges of thousands, are there? There's only 5,994. And we go through it, and it turns out that the whole number is not 8,600. It's a much smaller number. It works out at, I worked it out before, it works out at 58, 69. So it works out about 75,000 something or other. Anyway, it's not 78,600 if you do it that way. What's the answer that the commentators give to that quandary? And that is, these 600,000 did not include what, apart from the under 20s and over 60s, did not include one tribe. Which tribe?
Levium.
Levian. So one explanation is that these judges were all taken from the tribe of Levi, and so the numbers do work. I don't buy that at all, because it doesn't work, because Levi was not in every city, didn't have enough Levium in every city for that. And the other explanation given is that they were all over 60, and therefore all the judges were over 60, and therefore they didn't mess up the numbers that the Gemarah says. That's a better option than Levi, but it also might be a little bit difficult. Although, you want to remember, we've already said a few weeks ago, to be a judge, you have to be a clever guy, you have to have a lot of experience, you have to speak 70 languages and all that lot. So possibly over 60. So we come to a very important thing. We come to these 4 words. Hadran alech dinei mamanot. We have, after a period of 4 years and 1 month, we have finished the Perek. Oh, Hannah, yes, Hannah, what do you want to say?
I'm confused.
Go on.
If you take out the judges, and therefore you have smaller numbers, that means that you're making the judges unjudgeable. They can't ever be on the level where they're judged.
I need to think about that.
Are you saying who can judge the judges?
Who judges the judges?
Also has to be an individual that can be taken to court.
I think it still works, because your judges of thousands, you start with the 600,000 people, right? So everybody has a judge. You've got one judge of 1,000. You've got 600 judges of that. So everybody is judged. But then that judge, he's got a judge. He's part of that 600,000. But the next lot, I've only got 599,400.
But that judge can be the different numbers of 10, 50, 100, 1,000 were for the severity of the claim, and the judge of 1,000 can be claimed against by a neighbour that he's making too much noise, and that only goes to a court of 10, and not to a court of 1,000. So he's got to be able to be judged all the way along.
That's if you say that it goes according to the difficulty of the case. But then once it's brought to a court, there is nobody who is above the law. There is you. If you are a litigant, you can bring it to a court. Okay. If you're one of the 10, you can bring it to your court of 10. You can bring it to whatever court is associated with you. It's a good point, and it needs some thought through. But the first point that you make is not right, and that is that there is nobody that's not got a judge, because all 600,000 had at least a judge. The second point that you make about the level of court is a good point. I need to think about that. It's a fair point. That we have to work out how it worked for one of the top 600 people.
It would be like you can't today. You have to go to Bet Mishpat HaShalom before you can get to the High Court. But a High Court judge still needs to be able to have a claim against him in Bet Mishpat HaShalom. And therefore, at every level, you've got the whole number.
I agree.
You don't take them away.
I agree. I agree. That definitely is a fair point. I need to look up and see. There's various suggestions in the art scroll of where to look. It doesn't say what it says. I'll need to look up Tosfos, Ran, and Yad Ramah, Mizrahi, and Rashi. Okay, so I've got homework to do now. So that's a very, very good point. Let's see if we can come up with what somebody gives an answer to that. But I think it's a very fair question. Okay, so as I was saying, after 4 years and 1 month, we have finally finished the first Mishnah. Okay, it so happens that first Mishnah was the whole Perek, which is very unusual. We have now finished the first chapter of Sanhedrin after 4 years and 1 month. So I am not in the habit of drinking whiskey at 11:20 in the morning. However, as I asked you to do in the group, we are going to drink a l'chaim because we're going to say Hadran Alech Dinei Mamanot Bishlosha. We will return to you this Perek. What it means, the Hadran means, what do you sing with the Hadran? You say with the Hadran, Hadran means I will return to you. I've finished with you now. I've done it. I've learnt you, but I'm not going to put you to one side and forget that you ever exist. I'm going to return to you. And one day I will come back and learn it again and learn more things. So I am going to drink a l'chaim, and I'm going to dedicate this l'chaim to one very special person, Leon Bennett. Okay, Leon Bennett, Zichrono Livracha. He was the one, this is more for Hannah's benefit than everybody else, because everybody knows this except for Hannah, and maybe some people who are listening don't know it. Leon was the one that said to me over 4 years ago, he said, a long time before that actually, he said, when you've finished studying for your smicha and you've got more time, I want you to learn Gemarah with me. So I said, okay, I'll learn Gemarah with you. What do you want to learn? He says, I want to learn Sanhedrin. So I finished the smicha, and he came to me and he said, you promised me to learn Sanhedrin with me. And we started, and we did 1 week. And I said, you know what? Why don't we open this up to everybody else? Maybe there's other people that want to learn Sanhedrin. And that is how this shiur began in November 2019. And it's all down to the zechut of Leon Bennett. Very sadly, he never made it to the end of the first chapter because he passed away on Sukkot last year. Not the Sukkot just gone, that we've just had, the Sukkot before. I used to learn with him on a one-to-one as well. And we started chapter 2. So that's when we start that next week, please God. That will be a little bit familiar to me because I learned it with a little bit of it with Leon before he got too sick.
in memory of Leon and in his zechut, I worked out at some point, I think I worked out when I spoke at his shloshim, that there was some ridiculous number of hours that had been given over to learning. If I counted up the number of people that had attended the shiur, that had watched the recording, it was something, I don't know, it was tens of thousands of learning hours that were, can you remember how many it was, Johnny? You're muted.
I think it was 78,600.
78,600, maybe. Wherever it was a lot of hours of learning, all in the zechut of Leon. So now's an opportunity to thank Leon, looking down upon us from up there. L'chaim, Leon, thank you for pushing us to learn Sanhedrin. We've all been very, very much enriched by your suggestion. We miss you very much. And l'chaim, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol niyeh bidvaro.
Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim, l'chaim. And just to finish it, you can't have a siyum without a mezonot. So Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei minei mezonot.
Amen.
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 There we are. So a very special day. A very special day. We finally finished the first chapter. Bezrat Hashem will start the next chapter next week. Spread the word to your friends. Anybody that wants to join, now be a good time to join. We're going to start a new chapter. Okay, any questions on today's thing other than Hannah's very, very difficult and excellent question, which is going to tax my mind? By the way, there's nothing to stop you lot looking it up either. See if you can find some answers to that question. All right. Shavua Tov, everybody. I'm going to be sending out some stuff about the various activities next week. Watch out for that. Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov. And we could all have good news.
Amen, amen, amen.
Bye. Thank
Bye, Marukin to Neville.
Thank you. Thank you, Johnny.
All the best. Bye-bye.